You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are watching and listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. Today is July 12th, 2021. Well, we got some interesting stories here. Perhaps you can find the common theme. Maybe the common theme is that they're just strange stories. Why don't you give us your opinion? Send me an email to kl@kerrylutz.com. Right now, our good friend John Rubino is back with us. We're on our holiday summer schedule. And John, the first one is Wells Fargo closing personal credit lines. Now, did you get any idea why they did this?
Well, it can't be a good thing, right? Because it kind of implies that they're worried about something if they're closing down everybody's credit lines and doing it indiscriminately. Like I can see going through and pruning your riskiest customers or scaling back their credit lines or something, but just conceptually getting rid of something like a credit line. And by the way, a credit line could be something like overdraft protection on your checking account, a simple thing like that banks do for people. Like we have one of those, my wife and I, on a checking account where if we write a check that exceeds the balance, they just lend us the money and then charge us a big interest rate on it until we pay it off. Apparently, Wells Fargo isn't even going to let people do that. And, the thing about Wells Fargo, though, in particular, is that they're both evil and stupid, it seems like. And that's different from a lot of the other big banks who are kind of evil and smart at the same time. Like Goldman Sachs is a criminal organization, but a smart one. But Wells Fargo seems to get caught doing really stupid things all the time. Like their big scandal of the recent past is the practice that they had going for a long time. For if you sign up for an account there, they would secretly sign you up for 2 or 3 other services and then charge you fees in order to boost their fee income. They got caught, and I hope a lot of people got fired for it, but I don't really know. But anyhow, this is Wells Fargo doing Wells Fargo-y kinds of things, which on the one hand, may not mean anything because maybe they're just dumb. But on the other hand, when a bank does what they're doing, that's a sign of nervousness about the overall economy, right? Because you want, in good times, you want everybody to be drawing on their lines of credit, and then paying a bunch of interest on those credit lines, right? And now to do the opposite for a bank means they're giving up a lot of interest income, which can't be good. We'll have to see what all happens in the future, but that's a data point that points towards crazy things happening in the future.
Yeah, crazy things. It's almost as crazy as $100 cheeseburger, right?
That is another weird thing that's happening now, because people are coming back to restaurants, right? And their restaurants are busy and everything, but a lot of restaurants are acting like they've got some really serious problems, and they're imposing either customer minimums or table minimums, where they where you go there and they say, okay, it's $50 per person minimum, and in some restaurants apparently there's $100 per person minimum, which is it's just another weird thing, because that's kind of guaranteed to scare away a segment of your customers. People who weren't probably going to spend $100 for dinner, and why would you want to do that if you're a restaurant? Unless you're so busy that you can raise prices in that way, in a really arbitrary way, and not worry about having a bunch of empty tables. So here again, it's not clear what they're doing for, and it's not clear what it points to, but it's not a good thing. This is not a positive thing for the economy, but it's not clear why it's not positive. It just seems like a bad thing.
I wish I could understand, but $100 cheeseburger, I guess if it's ground up Kobe or Wagyu beef, maybe you can get those prices. But I don't know how many people in the country are really willing to pay $100 for a hamburger. But this kind of feeds into the next story, which is pool contractors have never been busier. I know down here in Florida that it's through the roof, but all over the country, people are putting in pools. I mean, is that like, I guess, instead of an RV or in addition to the RV? I'm not quite sure what to think about it.
I think that's a form of prepping, right? You're looking at an increasingly scary world, wondering if you're liable to be locked down again, or if you have to, fortify your house against Mad Max, and you're thinking, okay, well, if I'm going to have to be here, what would I like to be doing while I'm here? So I guess pools make sense in that context, as do, hot tubs and indoor saunas and things like that. So there's probably a lot of kind of high-end upgrades happening to houses right now. And one other thing is that house prices are so expensive these days that maybe a pool doesn't seem that costly in relation to the value of the house. In other words, a pool might have at one point been 10 or 20% of the value of the house. Now the pool might be 5% of the value of the house. So it doesn't seem like as big a deal as it used to. Again, just as a general rule, money spent on real estate is money wasted in a lot of cases, because houses are not productive assets. They do not make you more money going forward. So to the extent that you dump a bunch of money into your house, as opposed to some kind of an investment that could go up in value, or as opposed to starting a small business or something like that, the cost of a pool will start a small business. And to the extent that people are not doing any of these productive things, but instead are doing manifestly unproductive things with their houses, kind of implies that it's sort of like a company buying back its own stock. They're saying they don't have any productive uses for that cash, so they might as well buy back stock. And this might be the same thing with houses. We don't have any good uses for our money because stocks are overvalued and bonds are overvalued. And what else are we going to buy? So what the hell? Let's just build a pool. Again, ambiguous, but probably a bad sign.
Probably. So then we got the surveillance state. So this guy on Fox News, Tucker Carlson, well-known commentator, he says that he has been told by several people, reporters, that his emails are being leaked and that the only way they could have gotten them was from NSA. I don't know that that's necessarily true. It's just that the NSA put out a non-denial denial saying, hey, he's not the target of any investigation. Like, we're supposed to be happy about that. Like, oh, well, at least they're not investigating me. And Carlson has said that people in FBI have told him that the NSA routinely leaks or transfers information to the Justice Department, which becomes the basis of criminal investigations, which is totally forbidden by the Constitution, by the National Security Act, all of these things. It's only supposed to be foreign intelligence gathering, right?
Yeah. Okay, this one is unambiguously bad. It looks like Tucker Carlson, the latest story is that he was trying to line up an interview with Vladimir Putin. So he was talking to some Russian people, or communicating with some Russian people who might be able to set the thing up. And the NSA was surveilling those Russians. And when Tucker Carlson made contact with them, his emails and personal data and everything were swept up in that investigation. But he was supposed to, according to the rules that the NSA is supposed to operate under, he's supposed to be anonymous. He would show up in a transcript as journalist number one or something like that. His name and other information would never show up. But of course, they went in to see who it was, found out it was him, and were apparently preparing to leak those emails to make him look bad. And then you're right, the denial they put out. Kerry, when you were a lawyer, did you get paid to write stuff like that? I would understand why you're not a lawyer anymore if that's the case, because that must be just soul crushing to have to lie without lying to people, the way the NSA did.
Yeah, well, we can get into the legal definition of a lie, perjury, but it's been whittled away so much that basically almost to the point of Clinton's, it all depends on the matter of what is. it's kind of the legal standard of perjury now.
Yeah, because the NSA said, yeah, Tucker Carlson is not he's not targeted for investigation, which is their way of saying, yeah, we got his emails here, but we got them kind of inadvertently. We didn't go after him, but now we got his stuff. And the second thing they said was, well, and we are not attempting to get his show taken off the air, which kind of means to anybody who saw that, I think, was, yeah, okay, we're going to leak his stuff. We're going to try to discredit him, but we're not specifically trying to get rid of his show. If his show survives, so be it. We don't care. We're just going to try to discredit him. So that's, if it can happen to Tucker Carlson, who has a very big audience, it can happen to pretty much anybody in any walk of life now. So the Snowden leaks notwithstanding, the NSA is still kind of out of control. And the surveillance state is still basically a turnkey totalitarian system, just waiting to be flicked on because they're surveilling everybody one way or another. And they can use what they find, as you said, they just send it over to the Justice Department, who then makes it the basis of an investigation, but then makes up sources that led them to start the investigation. And they get away with that, and they can come after you in ways that are totally unconstitutional. So yeah, this is a scary thing, and with any luck, and I'm not feeling lucky for our system right now, but with some luck. The backlash, at least from Fox viewers, over this Tucker Carlson thing will have some kind of an impact, and the NSA will have to scale back a little bit. Who knows? But it's not looking good right now.
Yeah. Well, half the world, half the country does think that Carlson's a criminal and should be prosecuted just because he holds opposing views to them, right? That's part of the problem, is criminalizing political behavior, opinions, not a good sign. It's like Mad Max, like you said, going full-blown totalitarian and not going to end well. It's this disclosure, unless there's serious shakeups in the intelligence departments, there isn't agencies. They're just not going to be in the foreseeable future. They got to get caught doing something really wrong, like trying to get rid of Justin Trudeau, or, hey, well, look what happened. We didn't even have this in our notes here, but look what happened with these guys. The president of Haiti was assassinated. Evidently, there might be the guys who did it were from the U.S., and they might have been trained by U.S. intelligence agencies. I didn't think we were in the political assassination business anymore in this country, John.
Really? You didn't think that, Kerry?
I thought we left it a while ago, like the church report and all that, the church committee. I thought like we were going to mind our own business for a change.
No, we are so good at that stuff. It would be impossible to stop once you realized how good you were. And the U.S. has been doing this forever. Do you remember the thing Biden said the other day? And he said, he was talking about Russia interfering in our election. And he said, well, what would it be like if America was going around interfering in other countries' elections? And then the whole world just erupted with laughter there because, we do that regularly. We interfere with other countries' elections, and up to and including assassinating politicians we don't like. So, I have no idea what was going on in Haiti, what the president down there was doing or anything, but it's totally in character for the U.S. to train and finance a hit squad and then send them out after some developing countries' leaders. That's something we do all the time. So if it turns out we did that or participated in it, that would be like number 100 in our lifetime of things like that the U.S. has done. So, and anybody who thinks otherwise is just deluding themselves or is really historically illiterate. Just read a couple of books. There's a book about the Dulles brothers that would be a good place to start, who were a couple of psychopaths who got control of the U.S. government during the Eisenhower years. And they would overthrow other countries just because they thought it was fun. They did one and they thought, hey, this is fun. And then they went around specifically looking for other countries to overthrow. I don't think we ever really stopped. So,
look, there was one analysis of the Vietnam War that I read that said that when we deposed the president of Vietnam. I think his name was Diem. He was taken out basically in a coup. I think they killed him also, but I might be wrong on that. That was like the end of any chance we had of winning the Vietnam War. Over from that point on, and the rest was just bread and circus. Hey, one other thing we should acknowledge is that we're like now officially out of Afghanistan.
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Silver One Resources is an exploration and development company backed by strategic investors Eric Sprott and SSR Mining. At Silver One's Candelaria Mine project in Nevada, there is already a historic resource estimated at 127 million ounces of silver, which Silver One is developing and advancing. The company's Phoenix Silver project, located within the Arizona Silver Belt, is an early-stage exploration project on which native silver vein fragments have been discovered near surface. One grab sample assayed an astounding 14,688 ounces per ton. Yes, that's right, ounces, not grams. Silver One has tremendous exploration potential, is extremely leveraged to the price of silver, and is cashed up and poised to increase shareholder value. Silver One trades in New York under the ticker SLVRF and in Toronto under the ticker SVE. To learn more, go to silverone.com. That's silverone.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network, the information you need to thrive now more than ever.
Yeah. And the Taliban already has like 85% of the country. That might go down as a war that went on 19 years too long. You know, even if you could justify going in there to get Osama bin Laden after 9/11, which I think, you know, is at least emotionally justifiable, if not strategically. But then that we just stuck around forever at a cost of, what did that end up? I think it was $1 trillion war in total, right? So that would have been enough to put a solar panel on every roof or give healthcare to everybody or pay off, well, 1/25 of the government's debt now. But instead we spent it on a war that, you know, within weeks, it looks like we will end up having lost and it'll be like nothing happened. So yeah, wherever you look, there is incompetence and unpredicted outcomes, you know, and that's just our world now.
Yeah, right. So, well, hey, on brighter news, the Biden administration is going door to door to get you to get vaccinated. Is that a good thing?
You know, that's one of those things that kind of sounds unconstitutional because your medical records are private and you can't have people going door to door who have some access to your medical records. But the government is saying that, well, it's our business to know who's been vaccinated and who hasn't. So at a minimum, the question becomes how widely are they disseminating that information to the people who are going to be knocking on our doors trying to get us vaccinated. And, you know, beyond that, the public health industry in general has never really gone door to door about things like this, as far as I know. You know, it's never been that invasive before. And the justification for this is really obscure. You know, if the majority of the country is vaccinated and a really large number of people have already had COVID and have, in effect, were vaccinated by nature, then we should be pretty close to herd immunity as it is. And if people don't want to be vaccinated, they're the ones taking the risk, right? If other people have been vaccinated, they're immune to whatever the people who are refusing to be vaccinated can throw at them. So it's really just the risk of the vaccination hesitance out there. And it's not clear why the government has a role in demanding that those people do something, you know, demanding that those people avoid a risk when we're allowed to take risks. You know, that's something we're allowed to do. We're allowed to drive our cars. We're allowed to eat whatever we want. We're allowed to take most medicines the way we feel like it. So this doesn't seem any different from that. But for some reason, it's being treated that way by the government. And it'll be interesting to see where this leads, because I think a lot of people probably feel the same way, that they don't want medical inspectors to be showing up at their door. There's a really funny video from a guy named JP Sears. Look that up on YouTube. It's a hilarious take on the government showing up at your door unannounced to try to vaccinate you.
Yeah. Well, hey, we've had a couple studies, and I don't want to mention the ailments, but you all know what we're talking about, because can get censored for that. But for a certain ailment that we've seen experienced, turns out if you've had it, according to these two studies, you have virtually the same chance of getting it as somebody who's gotten the jab. So you have to wonder, maybe you're right about the immunity and all that. Well, finally, we learned today that inflation might not be transitory.
The inflation debate is really fascinating right now, because this is very different from the inflation of the 1970s, when it was just going up and everybody saw it and understood it, and it was happening for fairly straightforward reasons. But this one is, okay, we've got the lockdown last year, which was kind of deflationary, which created a low base. So today's numbers look higher in relation to last year, and that explains part of what we think of as inflation. And then we've got a messed up global supply chain, which is causing shortages of lots of things, which is inflationary because the prices of things in shortage go up. But then we've got just massive amounts of currency creation, which is kind of a straightforward inflationary factor. And it's hard to know how all of those things work together, how this is going to play out when we don't have base effects anymore. And maybe the supply chain gets a little unkinked. And meanwhile, the government is still churning out new currency at the fastest rate in human history. So it's not clear how all of this plays out. And the Wall Street Journal just had an article today saying that baby boomers retiring is inflationary, because it increases the ratio of productive to non-productive to productive people, and that's inflationary. Which that flies in the face of the conventional wisdom about demographics. When you've got a big generation retiring, that's supposed to be deflationary, because boomers, we sell our houses, or we sell our McMansions and move into smaller houses. We don't have to buy a new car every 3 or 4 years. We can make one car last 10 or 15 years in retirement. We sell our stocks in order to pay our bills, or we sell our stocks in order to shift into safer things like bonds. Those are all deflationary things. And normally you would expect the boomer generation retiring to be very deflationary. But now you got the Wall Street Journal saying, nah, it's actually inflationary. So who knows? I honestly don't have any idea whether inflation is going to be 2% or 7% a year from now. It seems like there are forces out there that could lead to either one of those two. So this is one of the most complex times to try to invest for the short term. In other words, to place bets on what's going to happen in the next 6 months to a year, because stocks could soar in this environment, or they could tank. Same thing with bonds. Same thing with real estate. It's very hard to know what we're going to get out of all these cross currents in the coming year. And I don't have this faintest idea, except that it'll be chaotic, probably, just because that's what you get when you mess up your finances in this way. And so you want to own gold and silver and other forms of real assets, just because they tend to be way more stable. They're not as susceptible to financial chaos. So that's one thing you can do. But as for the rest, I don't have the slightest idea.
Well, you can't be surprised about the inflation that we're seeing, though. We did both foresee that, right? Mm-hmm. Knew it was coming. There was never a question about it, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, eventually the policies that are in place now and the behavior of people out there is wildly inflationary. So further down the road, no doubt, the dollar is going to collapse in value. Same thing with the euro and the yen and pound sterling and maybe the yuan. All the major fiat currencies will tank, and that's the definition of inflation. And prices will soar in local currency terms. But I'm just saying right now, like in the year ahead, there's a lot of stuff going on which could result in wildly divergent outcomes by, say, this time next year. And I really don't know. Longer term, you see, these longer term trends are much easier to understand and to map because you create insane amounts of currency and huge amounts of credit. You get inflation going forward. And we will get that. It's just that whether we'll get it right away, whether this is it, whether this is the beginning of the new 1970s, which then morphs into a new Weimar hyperinflation, or whether this is just a choppy year where you get things that you might not expect, but none of it makes any sense in any event. That it feels like that's what it could be, but who knows? I'm just saying I don't have a prediction for the year ahead.
We're going to find out one way or the other, and that's why you need to tune in to dollarcollapse.com, catch John's latest writings. Very important time, very crucial time. You need to be more informed than ever. Sign up for his newsletter, sign up for ours. Send us an email to kl@kerrylutz.com with any questions. John, good to have you back. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, Kerry. See ya.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.